Okay, today I wanted to talk about Dune. So today I wanted to talk about Dune, and there's a particular scene I wanted to focus on in a kind of a story aspect that Frank Herbert and the writers of the movie chose to keep in, which is a great decision because it's a great scene. And it's a very small scene, and they move quite past it quite quickly. But I just want to talk about it because I thought it was a great scene and kind of really highlights at a greater point. So, what the scene is the House Atreides. We're going to call them House A. For this, House Atreides is basically living on a planet. They are a noble family. Basically, everyone likes them. They are quite powerful. They have their stuff together, and they're living on an island, which is kind of like I don't know, kind of like an Italy. Not quite an Italy. It's a bit more like maybe like Greenland, where it's kind of like hard and rocky sort of way. But I always got the feeling that it was kind of like a Spanish mixture. I don't know. But basically, it's hard, rocky, and lots of water, basically. And so this is kind of the house they're going to. So they receive orders from the emperor of the galaxy. And the emperor tells them that they, House Atreides, are going to take over and rule this place called Arrakis, which is a desert planet where everything makes, where this sand is harvested. This red sand basically is harvested here. And this red sand is an integral ingredient in intergalactic space travel. So basically, whoever controls the sand can basically has a huge impact and influence upon the rest of the world because there's no supersonic or jump to light speed or anything like that without this space. So Atreides is ordered there. They don't really want to go, but they're ordered, so they're kind of forced basically to do it. And again, the story is told from Paul, the son. So basically the Duke Atreides, and then we have his kind of lover, concubine, who is Jessica, and we have Paul. And the Duke basically doesn't really want to get it, and you kind of see this through the lens of Paul's understanding. So he doesn't fully, there's no like concrete conclusion or anything conveyed saying I don't want to do this, but it just kind of, you kind of get this kind of reluctance, and they don't really want to do this or anything like that, but they've been ordered to. So what they're doing is they're going to Arrakis, and they're taking over from the family that previously there, the Harkonnens. And these Harkonnens are a pretty vicious family. They absolutely are known to be incredibly vicious. They're incredibly cruel to everyone who's underneath them, and this is kind of a known entity. They're incredibly powerful. They are very powerful themselves, and basically they've had plenty of years on Arrakis making tons of money, again, because spice, red sand, spice, or it's actually the spice, not the sand. Shoot. Red spice. He controls the spice, controls everything. And so they're here, and they've been powerful. And so basically what's happening is the House Atreides is going onto this planet, and they're trying to figure out the political dynamics. So what they have is basically you have, House A here. They have the Harkonnens up here who are gunning for them. You can tell they're going to be up to something basically from there. And the reason why is because they want to take control again of Dune, Arrakis, basically. They want to take control of that. We have the Emperor over here. And he's ordered the House Atreides to move here. And there's not really an explanation of why. We don't really know why. And then we have over here, they're trying to get the spice, mine the spice, and everything like that. And then what you have is the Fremen, who are the locals, basically, who live on Arrakis. And so this is kind of the political dynamic that they've run into. And so what it is they immediately arrive on Arrakis, and what they have to do is, it's very good because it's a story that, despite the fact that it's, incredibly heavy on the sci-fi element, you have, these intergalactic space travel, you have these giant ships, you have, planet to planet, these giant mega ginormous empire, you have all these elements that are coming into play. But the reason why is they do a great job of focusing on the kind of normal logistics for it, basically. So you have Gurney and all these different guys who are working for the House Atreides, and basically they're trying to, what do they spend the first section of the book doing? They're trying to set up house, basically. So what they're doing is they're, securing the border. They're coming up training soldiers. They're training Paul. Paul's trying to learn everything like this. And right as they arrive, they're trying to fit in. They're trying to understand the dynamic of this brand new planet. Jessica's trying to understand everything. She gets secret messages from the previous, lady who's there. You have all these elements that are coming into play with this mystery and intrigue, which is asking this question of, what did we get ourselves into? Or what has the emperor ordered ourselves to get into? There's just a lot of, it's just incredibly tense, because what you're waiting for is you're waiting for something to happen. And of course, now once they've arrived there and kind of they're beginning to set things up, they've been tasked with trying to figure out how to mine and harvest this spice. Because of course, if you walk through the desert, any type of machinery attracts these giant sandworms right here, which pop out of the middle of nowhere suddenly and eat everything. They're like absolutely enormous, so they'll come and eat just about everything. So this is the scene. This is basically where we set the scene. And so what we've got here then is, we've got Paul in his room. And basically what happens one morning as the House Atreides is trying to set themselves up and kind of get nestled in and everything like that, what you have is Paul is basically kind of doing his thing, and he hears something, and it's this tiny little machine, basically kind of like a tiny little drone with like a poison needle attack, basically. And what it does is it tries to attack him. It tries to kill him. And what happens is he dodges it. He basically escapes alive. It comes out unharmed. But then basically they do a search, because obviously this is an assassination attempt. And what it kind of does is it kind of answers a few questions we have. What will the Harkonnens do? What are they going to try? Well, it turns out they're going to try assassination. But they're not 100% sure, but they're basically sure they're behind it. And so what they do is they tear everything apart, and it turns out there has been a Harkonnen soldier that has been encased in the walls in cement here. And he's been there for 3 weeks, waiting in this room for 3 weeks. And I think this is just such a great little detail, because again, the little details will build and make up the big details. So if you want to have a realistic sci-fi that seems like it could actually happen as opposed to just pure fantasy, is you have to come up with logic, and you have to build up to it. When people are looking at a story and they go, that seems legit, that seems like it could be something that could actually happen, this is the little moments that are building up to it. There's a reason why Dune is so well received and did so well in the movie and in the book as well, because these little moments are building up. These are the kind of the small details. It's like later on in the story, in the book, they start talking about the Emperor's elite soldiers, the Sardaukars, who one of them was hiding a dart and a knife or a poison needle or something underneath his toenail. This is absolutely ridiculous, but basically this idea is like, if you live for something, you're going to think outside the box. And so what you have is basically they start asking questions, how did this guy get here? And it turns out he's been there for 3 weeks. He's basically been sitting in the walls for 3 weeks waiting for this time to assassinate it. And so what basically this does is, this is insane. This is clearly absolutely insane. So basically what you have is you have a guy going on a suicide mission to assassinate Paul, and he just sat in there for 3 weeks, I don't know, eating, sleeping, using the bathroom. Like, what was he doing in there? Just waiting. And the reason why he had to wait is because basically, of course, House Atreides, before they arrived, they secured the perimeter. They searched everything. They basically combed through everything to make sure everything was safe, because they didn't know what the Harkonnens would be capable of. House H. We don't really know what they're going to be capable of. We don't really know what they're going to do. And so what this does is it immediately broadens the horizon of potential of what could happen. And this is such a good element, because it's like the Harkonnens become, in the eyes of the audience, a feared enemy. Basically, now we understand why everybody's so freaked out by these guys, is because, and this builds up your villain. This builds up your villain, because this is an absolutely diabolical, insane plot. This is what happens. This is when somebody who lives to kill your enemy, this is the kind of plan that they are going to come up with. And it's just absolutely, it's a great little moment that's going to lead into bigger moments. This sets the stage. What are the Harkonnens up to? What are they going to do next? What are they going to do? And basically you have this to kind of set the stage of this is what they're capable of and this is what they're going to do. It also establishes as incredibly capable. Like, this is an insanely good plan. Like, who would think this? Because then you get an understanding for who you're dealing with. You also understand that they are really trying to kill House Atreides. And this is something that I think most people really find annoying. This is what you'll have is you'll have level 1 main character is like wandering around, doing his normal thing. And then suddenly he comes up against level 99. So we have level 1 over here and we have level 99. And this is a big bad evil guy who comes up and wanders along with him. And he'll say something along the lines of, "Ha, you amuse me. I'll let you live for some reason to get stronger and stronger. And then one day you'll kill me." And because basically what you have is you have enemies not doing evil things. This is the kind of things where basically it seems like this is an artificial handicap, basically, for your villains, where it's like it explains, this is always the question is when you have your level 1 main character and they're standing up against Sauron, the Harkonnens, the evil people, why doesn't the person who's fully established just try and kill them? This is something that Harry Potter does really well. And the reason why is, Voldemort's really trying to kill him. He's really trying to, but he's in a weakened form. He doesn't have a physical form. And so you have this whole saga of Voldemort trying to kill Harry Potter, and this is kind of explains it, What you have with Lord of the Rings is Sauron sending the ring wraiths. He's not sending random orcs, he's not sending random brigands, he's sending elite soldiers that they can't even fight. They just have to run from and hide. Basically this whole thing. So you have to explain why doesn't because what you want to have is a character arc that's kind of like this. So basically they start off weak and then they go up here to strong. And this is the character arc. Now this could be a karate movie where they start from a bad karate to a strong one. You could be Harry Potter where you start off with your 11 years old and you don't know magic to, hey, you're now 17, 18, have gone through all this, you destroyed all the Horcruxes, you've done this whole thing. It could be Lord of the Rings, where you started off as a kind of a airheaded hobbit, and then now you're trying to sneak into Mount Doom, sneak past into, Cirith Ungol, or wherever all those places are. And you've raised an army in Gondor, the one true king has returned, Rohan has been united, this whole thing, basically, where you're starting off from weak to strong. So what you have to answer, of course, because, of course, the villain is going to be right here. This is where our villain lives. And the villain has to be right here in order for it to because you want to see growth, you want to see how far they've come, and then you want to see them fight using all the powers and everything that they've built up towards. You want to have this combat, this clash, basically, from here. And in order to do that, you do have to actually answer the question of, okay, why didn't they just kill you when you're right here? This is something that the boys did really well, which we'll probably talk about at some point. And what this does is if you establish, you have to answer this question. Usually you have to answer this question. And so what happens here is, turns out Paul's really good. He's basically the chosen one. You have all this stuff that's going on that you don't fully understand with the Maldiv. He will know the ways even though he's not one of your own. You have all this aspects going on. You have all this training basically going on with Paul, where you're trying to train him up to be, the heir to the House Atreides, the leader basically that's going to take over his father. And so what you have is this basically, you're building up Paul, but then in order to do that is you either have Paul be overpowered or you have to match him against someone who's equal. So just as Paul's doing all of this stuff in order to fight up against the Harkonnens and everything like that, the Harkonnens are hard at work trying to murder him, and this is the stuff that they're after, that they're coming up with. And what this also does is basically, when you're a reader and or a watcher, basically, there's kind of a rough spectrum of what characters will do, basically, from here. And this is very, very vague stuff. But think of it where it's like, okay, this is kind of what I will expect this character to do. So this is kind of what you say, expected actions, from here. So, well, let's say if we took like Star Wars, let's say sending out stormtroopers to kill you is like right here. This is bread and butter from here. And then maybe this is unexpected. Let's put unexpected up here, and this is boring. So these are your two. These are our metrics that we're kind of working and operating out of from here. So this is where our main character. This is kind of the baseline from here. So stormtroopers. Here, maybe a bounty hunter. So we could have a bounty hunter, and maybe that's a little bit higher up on the list. But basically, you're having these things, and this is kind of what it is. And basically, this is always relative. So if we ever had an action that was up here, the whole expected actions would reset. It would move up from here to here. And you would then expect, oh, holy cow, this is it. And this is the reason why, when Lex Luthor, if you compare Lex Luthor or something like that versus Homelander. Who here, when they watched Homelander laser beam an entire crowd of people in half, basically, thought, you know what? There's about a 50% chance that he's actually killing everyone. There's a decent chance he's actually killing everyone. They basically just, I could see that happen. And the reason why is because we've seen what Homelander can do, such as abandon people in that plane crash in order to die. There's all this stuff that you can see that he has done, which now you begin to expect. So basically it's raised the bar from here. And then you have boring down here where it's like, oh, I don't know what it would be. It would basically, and so you have to be careful because it can't be something too, it has to be planned out in the right way, and you have to come up with the constraints. So basically if like, hey, we're going to shoot a laser guided planet destroying blast, which is going to blow up the entire galaxy and kill Luke, the end. Super boring. But again, you have to temper it. You have to temper it aspect from there. And so what you could have here is, hey, maybe, Darth Vader is coming out to kill Luke Skywalker himself. He tries to kill Luke. But we know that Luke sucks at lightsabers. So he sucks at lightsabers, but we need Darth Vader to come fight him. What do? Change the dynamic. Maybe they don't fight with lightsabers. Maybe they are fighter pilots, basically, from here, because it turns out Darth Vader's an excellent fighter pilot. But it turns out also that Luke is a great fighter pilot. And it kind of makes sense with his backstory because he's been a fighter pilot and he's flown ships and everything like that. He bullseyed whatchamacallits off Tashi Station. You have this whole aspect going on where it kind of changes the dynamic again. You have it play out, and it kind of really, really works from there. So, yeah, I think that covers everything I want to talk about. I just think scenes like this are really, really great in terms of setting the tone, setting the expected, the Overton window or whatever of what the audience can expect characters to do and what it takes to change it and what it means to set that and everything. And I think it really just influences all of it. And it's kind of explains and adds an extra depth as to the reason why Dune has been so successful and everything like that, why it's been such a good book. It's one of the premier, basically the sci-fi books originally that came out in the 1960s from there. So, that covers it. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next.